You've been told that kindness is your greatest protection in this world, that being well-liked will shield you from harm. They're wrong. The truth? In a world of strategic minds and calculated moves, your niceness is being weaponized against you. What if the most powerful people throughout history knew something you don't? Machiavelli revealed this centuries ago, yet most people still haven't grasped what the truly influential understand instinctively. Being feared creates boundaries that being loved never will. Today you'll discover why emotional distance isn't just effective, it's essential. You'll learn why the most respected individuals aren't the most accessible, and how your constant availability is actually diminishing your power. Within minutes, you'll understand the psychological principles that separate those who lead from those who follow, those who set terms from those who accept them. This isn't about becoming cruel, it's about becoming strategic, about crafting an untouchable presence that commands respect without demanding it. If you're tired of being overlooked, undervalued, or easily manipulated, these principles will transform how others perceive and respond to you. The most powerful people aren't necessarily the loudest or the most liked. They're the ones whose boundaries are crystal clear. Ready to become one of them? Most people drift through life believing their greatest shield is being well-liked, surrounding themselves with smiles that hide calculating minds. They open their doors to flattery, share their vulnerabilities freely, and mistake politeness for protection in a world that rewards strength, not sentiment. What they fail to grasp is that kindness without boundaries creates not allies, but opportunists, who catalog weaknesses while nodding in apparent agreement. The truly powerful understand that excessive agreeability is merely painting a target on one's back. Behind every fallen leader lies a history of excessive trust, of believing that goodwill functions as armor in arenas where advantage is constantly sought. History reveals this pattern repeatedly, from boardrooms to battlefields. Those who believed themselves safest through popularity alone discovered too late that familiarity breeds not just contempt, but strategic exploitation. The strategy of power requires recognizing that human nature hasn't fundamentally changed since ancient times. People respect what they cannot easily obtain or understand. When you're accessible to everyone, you become valuable to no one. This isn't to suggest cruelty as an alternative, but rather a calculated distance that keeps others slightly off balance, slightly uncertain of where they stand with you. The most effective power strategy involves creating an air of inscrutability that makes others work for your approval rather than assuming it. Those who master this balance walk through rooms commanding attention, not through desperate attempts at connection, but through the magnetic pull of controlled mystery. The Renaissance philosopher understood something fundamental about human nature, that comfortable minds often reject, that between fear and love only one creates reliable boundaries. He observed through centuries of political maneuvers that affection remains fickle, shifting with convenience and opportunity, while respect, rooted in measured intimidation, endures even when tested. The powerful don't require constant displays of force. They merely need others to understand there are consequences to crossing certain lines, creating an invisible perimeter that few dare to breach. Those who grasp this principle operate differently, in both business and personal spheres, never threatening explicitly, yet cultivating an aura that communicates strength beneath composure. Consider how truly successful negotiators never raise their voices. They don't need to when their reputation speaks volumes through disciplined silence and calculated unpredictability. This calculated stance isn't about cruelty but clarity. When others know exactly where they stand, relationships paradoxically become more stable, not less, as everyone understands the rules of engagement. History's most enduring leaders mastered this delicate balance, earning genuine loyalty not through desperate attempts at friendship but through consistent demonstration of unwavering principles. Studies reveal that teams led by those who maintain respectful distance often outperform those seeking popularity, as clear boundaries create the psychological safety necessary for genuine productivity. The feared yet respected leader doesn't need to constantly reassert authority because it's woven into every interaction, creating a gravity that naturally organizes the social environment around them. The strategic mind recognizes that emotions, when displayed without careful consideration, become weapons in the hands of others. Those who wear their hearts on their sleeves provide a detailed map of their pressure points, allowing others to navigate straight to their vulnerabilities when advantage is sought. History's most formidable figures, from corporate titans to diplomatic masters, share one common trait: the ability to maintain emotional equilibrium even when storms rage within. Their power stems not from emotional absence but from selective revelation, understanding that timing transforms vulnerability from weakness into calculated strategy. Watch how skilled negotiators operate in high-stakes environments, revealing precisely measured emotional responses that serve their objectives rather than exposing their true position. They've internalized what psychological research confirms: that humans instinctively exploit emotional patterns they identify in others, often unconsciously seeking leverage through predictability. When you broadcast every disappointment, celebration, or frustration, you're essentially providing others with your user manual complete with instructions for manipulation. The untouchable understand that emotional restraint isn't suppression, but strategic allocation of a limited resource. This principle extends beyond boardrooms into daily interactions, where those who master emotional regulation find themselves naturally ascending social hierarchies. Consider how rarely you witness true emotional revelation from those in positions of genuine influence. Their measured responses create an impression of unshakable competence that draws others into their orbit. By controlling which emotions breach the surface and when, they maintain the ultimate power in any exchange. Psychological independence from external validation or provocation. This calibrated distance doesn't diminish connection, but rather elevates it to a place where respect becomes the foundation rather than fleeting sentiment. The most influential individuals throughout history have mastered the art of being physically present, yet psychologically unreachable. They stand before others as a puzzle missing crucial pieces, engaging yet never fully revealed, attentive yet never completely transparent about their thoughts or intentions. This calculated distance creates a magnetic effect where others find themselves working harder for approval, sharing more while receiving less, and ultimately respecting boundaries they can sense but never quite define. The truly powerful understand that psychological accessibility is a currency to be spent sparingly. Notice how those with genuine authority rarely over-explain themselves or rush to clarify their positions, instead allowing silence to amplify their words when they do choose to speak. Their unpredictability doesn't stem from chaos but from strategic restraint. They respond when unexpected, remain silent when a response is anticipated, and in doing so maintain control over the rhythm of every interaction. Research in behavioral psychology confirms what Machiavellian strategists have known intuitively. Humans naturally assign higher value to what they cannot easily categorize or predict. This principle manifests even in casual interactions, where those who maintain slight emotional distance often find themselves pursued rather than pursuing. The power dynamic shifts automatically toward those who reveal themselves in careful measures, like rare glimpses of a landscape through parting clouds, rather than an open field with nowhere to hide. By cultivating this delicate balance, being engaged yet slightly removed, one creates not isolation but a gravitational pull that brings others into orbit while maintaining the center of control. Throughout history, those who wield true influence have understood that accessibility diminishes authority, just as gold buried deep within mountains holds greater value than pebbles on the shore. The masters of power create deliberate barriers to their presence, not from insecurity but from strategic awareness that what is rare becomes inherently more valuable. Consider how ancient rulers designed elaborate palace architectures with increasing levels of exclusivity, where each threshold crossed represented not just physical distance but hierarchical ascension. Today's equivalent isn't physical walls, but carefully constructed protocols that filter access to those at the top. Watch how industry titans manage their availability, creating systems where direct contact becomes increasingly difficult with each level of success they achieve. This isn't mere ego but practical strategy. When access becomes scarce, each interaction carries greater weight, each decision receives more careful consideration, and casual demands evaporate before reaching their attention. Research into human Psychology consistently shows that we value what we must work to obtain, respecting thresholds that require effort to cross. The truly powerful leverage this fundamental aspect of human nature rather than fighting against it. The most respected advisors, executives, and thought leaders understand that their time and presence constitute their most valuable currency, to be invested rather than spent carelessly. They create environments where others must demonstrate value before gaining entry, establishing clear paths of merit rather than chance encounters. This selective availability doesn't diminish their influence, but amplifies it through focused application, like a laser compared to scattered light. Those who master this principle find themselves making fewer decisions with greater impact, speaking less frequently, but with words that carry exponentially more weight. The strategic use of silence creates a vacuum that others rush to fill with speculation, revelation, and often unconscious submission to your frame of reference. Masters of influence understand that words withheld often carry more impact than those spoken, creating spaces where others reveal their positions while you maintain yours in protective obscurity. Notice how skilled negotiators allow uncomfortable silences to stretch until the other party feels compelled to offer concessions simply to break the tension. The disciplined mind recognizes that silence isn't passive, but an active force that applies pressure without revealing intention. Similarly, strategic absence elevates presence when it finally occurs, creating anticipation that transforms ordinary appearances into significant events. Historical figures who mastered this art found that their occasional emergence from seclusion carried weight that constant visibility could never achieve. Consider how certain business leaders make rare public appearances that generate headlines while their more accessible counterparts struggle for attention, despite constant visibility. This calculated scarcity follows fundamental market principles. Limited supply increases demand, even when the commodity is merely your attention or presence. Those who observe rather than explain gain tremendous advantage in both personal and professional realms, collecting valuable information while others exhaust themselves through unnecessary disclosure. The power of observation lies in its asymmetry. The watcher gains data points while the watched reveals potential weaknesses. This principle appears throughout nature, where predators remain still and silent while prey announces its location through movement and sound. By mastering strategic silence and calculated absence, one doesn't merely avoid vulnerability, but actively creates situations where others reveal their positions while yours remains protected behind a veil of mystery. The truly powerful understand that an established reputation works tirelessly on their behalf, fighting battles they never need to engage in directly. When stories of your principles, capabilities, or past actions circulate widely enough, they create a protective field that precedes you into any room, negotiation, or conflict. History reveals countless examples of leaders who rarely needed to demonstrate their strength because whispers of their resolve accomplished the work of actual confrontation. A strategically crafted reputation becomes self-sustaining over time, with each new interaction reinforcing the narrative until perception solidifies into accepted reality. Notice how certain individuals command immediate respect upon entering new environments, not through explicit demands but through an intangible aura that others can sense before a word is spoken. This phenomenon isn't mystical but practical. When your name carries weight, others adjust their behavior preemptively, offering respect not from fear alone, but from a desire to align themselves with perceived power. Research confirms that humans make rapid judgments based on reputation markers, with these initial impressions often determining the entire trajectory of subsequent relationships. Those who master this principle invest carefully in reputation building moments, understanding when to make examples, when to demonstrate capability, and perhaps most importantly, when to show mercy that will be remembered. They recognize that strategic acts of unexpected generosity often strengthen their position more than routine displays of dominance ever could. By crafting a multi-dimensional reputation that includes both strength and selective benevolence, they create armor that protects in all environments. The reputation becomes the frontline representative, allowing the person behind it to operate with increasing freedom as their legend does the heavy lifting. The ultimate form of power comes not from external control but from internal sovereignty, a state where external reactions no longer dictate internal responses. Those who master this principle develop an unshakable center that remains undisturbed regardless of surrounding chaos or deliberate provocations. They understand that emotional reactivity creates predictability, and predictability, inevitably, leads to manipulation. By cultivating internal detachment, they achieve what ancient philosophers and modern strategists alike recognize as the supreme advantage: the ability to think clearly while others respond emotionally. Watch how the truly influential navigate high-pressure situations with a calm demeanor that unsettles opponents accustomed to emotional leverage. Their composure isn't coincidental but cultivated through deliberate practice, training themselves to pause between stimulus and response, to question their immediate reactions, and to choose rather than be chosen for. This psychological discipline creates an unsettling advantage in negotiations, conflicts, and even casual interactions. When others cannot discern your desires, fears, or triggers, they cannot formulate effective strategies against you. The final paradox of becoming untouchable lies in understanding that true power doesn't require constant assertion. It exists in potential energy rather than kinetic display. Those who embody this principle achieve victory without conflict, influence without obvious effort, and authority without visible force. They create situations where others' assumptions and projections do most of the work, conserving their own energy for truly consequential moments. The untouchable don't need to defend because they position themselves where attacks become irrelevant, establishing boundaries so clear that they rarely need enforcement. As you move through your world now, armed with these Machiavellian insights, watch how differently people respond to your newfound psychological distance. Ask yourself, how often have you sacrificed power for approval? What boundaries will you establish today that were missing yesterday? The truly powerful aren't asking for permission. They're creating realities others must respond to. Remember that becoming untouchable isn't about isolation, but strategic connection on your terms. What would change if you spoke less but with more impact? If your presence became something earned rather than freely given? Consider how your relationships might transform when others must invest before receiving your full attention and energy. Take this wisdom and apply it immediately. Start with one interaction today where you'll maintain that crucial psychological distance. Notice the shift in dynamics when you reveal less, explain less, and observe more. I'm curious, which principle resonated most powerfully with you? Share your thoughts below. And if this perspective has shifted your understanding of power, make sure others in your circle gain this advantage too. True power isn't hoarded. It's strategically shared with those worthy of the knowledge.